Welcome back to Duda Dojo, your source for the latest Duda news, platform how-tos, and product updates. I'm Jessica, and this week I sat down with Madison and Rachel, two members of the RivalMind project team, to tackle the important topic of content scaling, how to scale your content. So let's jump right in. Rachel and Madison, we are going to talk about content scaling, what content scaling is, why does it even matter? And if you guys are good with it, I'm going to give us a little breakdown of what content scaling is to get us started.
Break it down.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So really, content scaling is producing resources consistently on your website. So AKA blogs or other types of resources, so that search engines see that you have fresh content and data on a weekly or multiple times a week basis. And then the idea is that you can use that content to potentially reach a broader audience. Yeah. So there's I think some tips and tricks, and there's a little bit of savantness to how you produce that content, which is, Madison, why you are going to share with us. Yes.
This is your niche.
Talk to us as a manager of the content team. Like, talk to us about why this has value, and then how do we get it done?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you did touch on this a little bit. Google has what are known as spiders or crawlers. And so they are constantly crawling all over the web to find new and fresh things that are being added to the internet all of the time.
Yes.
So being a part of that conversation means having a consistent content schedule. So whether it's once a week, once a month, once a quarter, pro tip, keep your content a little bit more fresher than once a month.
Sure.
But keeping that fresh content means that Google is going to be constantly indexing your site, and it will help you to rise if you're, engaging in SEO or you're just wanting to grow your business.
Yeah. And the relevance of the content, we can touch on that later, but that matters as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So how do you help manage a client's content information in order to produce it on a regular basis? What do you use? What are some of the tools you use, and how do you process that?
Yeah. So when it boils down to everything, it's planning. Planning is so important. If we want to take a look at my screen really quickly, we've got an example here of what we call a content pipeline. So a content pipeline is just sort of a quick and dirty way for us to make sure that we are always on track. Here at RivalMind, for our clients, we produce our content topics, or what we're going to be, posting and publishing about 90 days in advance. So we make sure that we're gathering things like our word count, our content types, our topics, and our titles. And all of this sort of just helps us to create a cohesive schedule and figure out how all of these pieces are going to work really well together. Because it's so important that, you're not just posting a blog here and there. You're creating a conversation within those pieces of content to keep the users engaged and to help drive conversions.
Yeah. I love how organized you are. Can you actually just show us the sheet and like what each section represents? Because some of our viewers out there might be interested in scaling content. They just don't have even a clue of how to start. So
yeah, absolutely. So again, digging right into my screen, we've got everything super laid out here. So we've got the year, the quarter, whatever we're in, and then we start to get into sort of the nitty gritty. This is the approximate word count that we hope that the asset is going to be. So in this case, it's going to be about 1,000 words, or at least we're hoping. The content type, which is going to be a blog, your topic or your title. And then here is everything else, just sort of keep everybody's heads on straight. So we've got our links, our content statuses, just to let us know where things are in the pipeline, approximate due dates, and any notes that we need to just sort of help communication flow a little bit better. The most important part here is going to be those first 3 columns. Those first 3 columns show us, for the next month or so, what's going to happen and how we're going to sort of keep everything in play.
Yeah, I love this. So I know at RivalMind, we use professional writers, but I think we would be doing a disservice to anyone, watching or listening if we didn't discuss AI.
Yes.
So AI as a whole, let's talk about AI as a whole, AI with Duda. Rachel, I know you're a fan of AI.
Yes.
Big fan. Now, so you work in the web world. So you're really more focused on web development, development of those pages, the content that's developed in those pages. Talk to me about your experience with AI, what you think of it when you're developing this content, even though those aren't necessarily like specific resources. And then how do the Duda tools help you?
Yeah, so Duda actually has implemented a lot of AI in the last year. One of those is a business profile. And so you can sort of plug and play in there, and then you click a button, which is what Duda is great at, making my job easier. And then it just sort of builds that profile in. Obviously, you can't remove the human touch. So you do have to kind of connect with your client and you input those prompts in the Duda profile yourself, and then Duda runs with it. The thing with AI is it's really fast. It creates a lot of content for you. The issue, though, is it sort of regurgitates things that you've already prompted it.
Sure.
So you don't want to remove that human touch. You want to preview and read everything that it dumps out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it dumps out what you put in.
Sure.
So it is kind of like a little partner in crime.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So it's definitely a tool to utilize. It's not like a one-stop shop, though.
Yeah. That's I love that take. Madison, what about you when it comes to the future of generating resources using AI content? Do you agree that obviously we all know it still has to have that human touch, because in the end, it's a human being that's actually reading the resource.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about fully AI generated content? Have you much experience with that? And what's your take on it as a whole?
Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly with Rachel. AI is definitely a tool, and that tool can help to make things really great. You can also, use tools in the wrong way. So I think it's really important then when we're looking at AI generated content is figuring out how to use it to fill knowledge gaps, not to complete the entire process.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Mhm.
Knowledge gaps.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get started.
Yes.
And if you just feed AI a prompt, it like starts to generate that and get you moving forward.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
gets you over those humps.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I tend to lean in between this world of analytical and logic and creative.
Yes.
I do find myself, I'm not bragging, but I find myself pretty well balanced in the area, but I need inspired, And so sometimes I'll be thinking about things and I'll feed it to AI and it inspires like subjects or content. I'm like, that's very interesting. I have some experience in that. I could delve into that.
Yes.
But like you, I know that you have to reread your stuff. You have to make sure that it's in the tone of voice. I know that, ChatGPT really likes to use the word elevate a lot.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm like constantly telling it, do not use elevate. But
Even when you do it, like you're like, okay, rewrite that without the word elevate. And then it's like, okay. And then it does it
anyway.
right? Elevate is in there
Yes.
somewhere. And you're like, hello?
Yeah. So I think we've all concluded you can't just one and done. You still have to use your human brain, read it, make sure it's on tone, on point with the subject. And that also make sure that the resources it's producing actually are legit. So you might have to put a little research time into what it's saying. Like, is that 100% accurate?
So on AI, because you said you produce 90 days of content, do you use AI to come up with those topics? Like, where do you find inspiration for that? That's a lot.
That's a good question.
So we do it in a couple of different ways. Half of it is going to, probably 2/3, probably a better estimation, is always going to be human thought, human prompted. And there's always sort of an overarching umbrella. Like I said before, it's really important that your content is speaking to one another. Internal linking strategies are super important once you start actually publishing content on your site so that everything is sort of speaking to one another. Google knows how this meshes in your website because, as we said before, the relevancy of your content on your site is super important. If you have, maybe you sell gym equipment. If you sell gym equipment, don't write a blog about fishing.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Google's going to be like, why is this here? So making sure that you've got an internal linking structure in your blogs is super important. And in order to have a proper internal linking structure, your content needs to relate back to one another.
That's smart.
Does Google recognize AI? So if you write an entire blog using AI, is Google like, no?
So at this point in time, we don't have any confirmation on that. There are AI detectors, but they're sort of like a coin toss. Yeah.
It's AI against AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Google's stance right now is that there is no penalty for using AI content. We've even seen some AI content pieces rank on Google.
Interesting.
So right now it's sort of the wild, wild west, and we're just we're taking baby steps and we're wading into that water.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned internal linking. So I think that we have to show off our pillar piece.
Yes.
So at RivalMind, before you show us the pillar piece and then talk to us about how the strategy team is using that to scale content, I just want to brag about that piece a little bit. So this pillar piece that she's about to show us is something practically the entire company was involved in. So we had the strategy team involved in adding pieces to it, the content itself. We had our production team shooting videos for content that would relay.
That's so cool.
Yeah, the video assets relay to the content. And then within that, what she's going to show us today is that the team is using that piece. It's why we call it the pillar piece
Yeah.
to build other segments of content from. And I know that's an initiative you said that you have to accomplish by the end of the year. So let's show what that could look like on a large scale by showing off and bragging about our pillar piece here.
Absolutely. You say, you'll never get me to shut up about this. So here is our pillar piece. It is what is our SEO services. And you can see right off the cuff how many different like how granular this piece gets into all of its different themes.
I love the index on the side.
Yeah.
So you can look at your subject and then it just zip right down. Yeah.
Super quick. And it makes it really functional for the user as well. Maybe you just need one of these answers. Like, what are the benefits of SEO? Or do I have to use SEO services or can I do it myself? Being able to be functional and aesthetic is, I think, is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
So
can you scroll down a little bit? I just want to see some of these videos.
Absolutely. So
all that hard work put in there.
Yes. And there are even some fantastic assets that our design team created. They are so talented. This was truly a labor of love from our entire team. But just to sort of get into what we were discussing a little bit before about internal linking. So you can see here on my screen, we've got an internal linking structure based off of content that's already in there. So this content wasn't designed with internal links in mind. There were internal links that, we knew that we needed to add in, but we were looking for places once this piece was created, for looking for places that it made sense to bring back that conversation further. So if I were to click on this link, it brings me back to another article published earlier this year about what are the importance of backlinks. And so it's in conversation with one another. And that's something that's super important, I think, if you're going to discuss content scaling. Yeah. Because you need to be able to have, if you want to produce content really, really quickly, start with a theme, branch out from there. You can get more and more granular, and then you're just rapid firing content topics.
I love that. I mean, that's establishes such a great foundation for anyone listening of how to really start content scaling. So kind of just to like wrap this up, what do you guys think ultimately the best planning and strategy is for a new user who is considering content scaling? Is it just going at it? Is it just using AI to generate inspiration? Or do you start with really the organized foundation? Like, what's your take on that? I know mine because I like being organized, but some people just to like start producing and see what happens. So what's your version of that?
I mean, I don't think that there is one direct answer. I think it's kind of whatever works for that individual. Like, you're an organized person. I would say I'm organized, but I'm also like, let's start here or there. And then we bring it all together to where it's organized.
Do you think that industry matters? Do you think the industry plays an impact on how maybe you should proceed with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if you're, I was gonna say, I think if you're in e-commerce, you may want to start with a collection page, and then you can start sort of breaking down in top of funnel blog content, why this collection page is important. What are the benefits of the product that you're trying to push? Things like that. I think at the very least, you want to start with something larger. An overarching theme that you can sort of follow for a little while, and then you can sort of have fun and pick up something here, pick up something there. If you're not going to be super organized with the content pipeline, which I super get because it can be a lot, but starting with something solid to rest your feet on, and to always go back home to, so that you can build that internal linking structure.
Sometimes that takes mapping out though too. You're like, what do you want to start at the top, and then you sort of branch it out.
I think it could go either way. You start with inspiration and then figure what sticks, and then take that and strategize based off of that. Or you could start with strategy and then see how it runs.
And now with the genesis of AI, that becomes so much quicker.
Oh, it does. You're like, here's my idea. Create some sub ideas.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then go out, research, and write towards it. Yeah. Awesome. Great. This was great. I'm so happy you guys came in here and talked to me about this today. So let's get some more of those pillar pieces out there and continue to scale content in 2025. Thanks.
Woo. Exciting.
Oh hey, if you like this video, be sure to try out this one, or subscribe to our YouTube channel.